Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. It is Thursday, August. Couldn't hear the open, Luis, but it's all right. It's a Thursday. It's fine. Thursday, August 8th. This is episode 123. Remember to download, rate, review, subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating. Tell a friend, tell an enemy. I'm Matt Roy, alongside Don Harris.
What's up?
Don, how are you?
I'm busy, man. I'm busy.
Busy in a good way or busy in a bad way?
Busy in a good way. A lot going on, man. There's a lot going on. We got the Olympics going on. We got football season right around the corner. Busy.
Congratulations to Victor Wembanyama and Team France.
What a huge game. What a huge 2 upsets that was.
Yeah, they were 6-point underdogs today, won outright by 4. They just beat, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched yet. Victor Wembanyama and Team France just beat Team Germany, who beat them in the group stages, 73-69.
What do you say? Curb stomped them?
Yeah, they did not.
The first time around?
Well, yeah. This one was much closer, 4-point game, but they ended up getting a win. We'll talk about that today. Lauri Markkanen staying put, so that probably precludes the Spurs from making many more moves. That was the big one that they were rumored to be talking about. So we'll talk about that a little bit, what the Spurs roster looks like right now. Plus, latest from Cowboys camp, Emmitt Smith going on a podcast and talking a little bit of Dak and CD contracts. Had a couple of interesting things to say with our buddy RJ Ochoa, so we'll talk about that as well. But first, I want to get to our trivia question. I asked Don before we came in here, do you want a Spurs-related trivia question or do you want a football-related trivia question? He said Spurs, so that's what we're going to do.
Okay. I said basketball.
Yeah, basketball. So I made it Spurs. So it's who has the most total rebounds in a season for the San Antonio Spurs? One season, single season leader. Who has the most? We'll talk about it here in a little bit. And that's the trivia question for today. Who has the most total rebounds in a season for the Spurs? We'll get to the Olympics, and then we'll answer that trivia question here in a little bit.
I think so.
Who's your instant thought?
The first thing that popped into my head was Dennis Rodman circa 94-95. But David Robinson won a rebound title in his career. They're the only 2 Spurs to win a rebound title.
There's been a lot of really good rebounders on the Spurs.
Larry Keenan, one of the greats. Tim Duncan, one of the greats.
Mm-hmm. Wemby had a lot last year too. He's not the answer. I'll give that away. But
I think Rodman had bigger sheer numbers than Dave, so I'm going to go with Dennis Rodman.
All right. That's a good answer. We'll give everyone a couple of chances or a couple of seconds to think about it. Let's talk about France first. So, what a game!
Exhausting.
Absolutely
French,
exhausting.
International basketball. I had PTSD today. I got a PTSD flashback to 1972. First of all, that horn, that international horn that they buzz, like you don't have to call timeout or whatever. They'll just blow it after a made basket, because of a timeout.
Yeah.
You get to call timeouts in advance, so the ball will go through the rim and yay! And that reminded me of how the Russians robbed the United States in 1972 with young Doug Collins. You think of Doug Collins, right, as like a 75-year-old broadcaster?
Yeah.
He was a 19-year-old sophomore at Illinois State, and he made the 2 biggest free throws in the history of the world. The height of the Cold War, Russia, United States. He gets clotheslined going to the rim with 1 second left, 3 seconds left, and he makes both free throws to give the U.S. the should-have-been win. But anyway, in the middle of his first free throw, as he's in his shooting motion, they blow that horn to try to throw him off. He makes it anyway. They blow it again. Of course, the Russians inbound miss. Game over. U.S. wins. They give him 2 more chances at it because they say the horn blew. And they say it was a bad timeout. Whatever.
Yeah, they got screwed.
We get robbed. Yep. So today, Germany's playing France. A German guy misses a 3. It's a long rebound. He chases it and tries to save it. He goes out of bounds.
It hits the
end line.
rim.
It hit the rim, bounced back,
but it didn't
towards
reset.
Him. Yeah. He inbounds it. Every place stopped. And Daniel Theis underneath the basket gets the ball, puts it in the basket, and they go back and they count the basket.
Yeah, so it hit the rim, but the clock didn't reset. The shot clock didn't reset.
Doesn't matter.
And then Theis grabbed it, went up, scored the 2 uncontested because everyone else stopped, and they ended up counting it for no reason.
In any decent league, they would give Germany the ball out of bounds and make them. They wouldn't have counted the basket. Stupid.
All right,
but
so
Wemby was great. I mean, he wasn't great.
He wasn't great. Let's be honest.
He wasn't great. He didn't shoot the ball well. He's 4 for 17. He made a big 3 down the stretch.
1 of 8 from 3.
Yeah, and that one's the one that counted. And he changed the game. He when he was in, he made it difficult for them around the rim. He had 3 blocks. He had a key block on a 10-0 run that led to a run out to a 3 from Koulibaly or Nalinka.
Wasn't it Cornier?
No, it was Nalinka. How do you pronounce his name?
I have no idea.
Nalinka from the Knicks.
Niakina.
Yeah. He made it to go up by 13. His presence was felt. Stat line doesn't look good. 11 points, 7 rebounds, 4 blocks, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. But he was solid. He just didn't shoot the ball well. He's really struggled from the 3.
I think what these games are showing us is that he still has a long way to go and that he is a 20-year-old kid. Like,
sure.
We keep thinking of Wemby as this polished player, which he is, and he's very, very good for his age, and he's the prodigy here. But he has deficiencies in his game. The physicality of the international game is really disrupting him.
And it's a big difference than the NBA.
Absolutely.
You have a lot more room to play in the NBA. You have a lot more freedom without being pushed around in the NBA. And remember, 11 points in these games is the equivalent to like 18 in an NBA game. Tim Duncan struggled mightily in FIBA. His most famous quote, FIBA sucks. The only 2 words he would talk about after losing in 2004 to Mon.
Did he only play once?
Nah, he played.
Or did he play in 2000
played in 2000 and 2004.
Okay, I didn't know if he only played once. But you can kind of see the difference in the game is staggering. NBA compared to FIBA basketball, it's just a completely different animal.
Yeah,
but Wemby didn't play well. We don't have to sugar.
I don't think that's accurate.
He didn't play well offensively, for sure.
For sure.
His presence, just because of who he is and the talent that he has, the intangibles that he has, he's always going to make a difference on the defensive end. But even defensively, you see some of those inefficiencies, or you see some of those things that he has to get better at. He got blown by 3 or 4 times on the 3-point line. He's not a great perimeter defender, and that's fine.
Yeah.
He's a great defender at the basket, and that's really where you need him.
He makes a difference there.
When you're spacing the floor like that and he's trying to guard Moritz Wagner on the 3, like, he's staying at the elbow because that's his area.
But there's other places where he affected the game that he doesn't get credit for. Great assists where there's a foul where he doesn't get credit for the assist. His basketball IQ, his vision, his court vision, being in places where they decide not to challenge him and it changes their offensive possession, where he doesn't get credit for a steal or a block, but he makes a big impact.
I agree. And offensively, if somebody doesn't make the basket, you don't get the assist. And you can see where he puts himself in good positions on offense, but I think it's fairly clear that the international game is getting to him a little bit, or the pressure might be getting to him a little bit, because he's a great free throw shooter. He's a very, very good free throw shooter, and he misses one at the end of the game when the game's on the line.
He needed it.
He needed it really bad.
But he made the next one.
He made the second one, but he clanked the first one. I mean, you can see there's subtle ways that you can see that
I don't know. I wouldn't call it clank.
Pressure is getting it to him.
It was long. It was back iron.
Clanked off the back iron.
You choke when you miss front iron. That's a good shot. It just hit back iron.
I do you think that you can see that the pressure is getting to him a little bit? I think it's fairly obvious.
I think he felt the weight of a country on him today.
Yeah, 100%.
There's no question about that. That would be anybody. That would be LeBron James now if this game was in the United States. When you're playing for your country, you saw what it meant to him afterwards. He's crying like a baby.
What a moment!
It meant like Scottie Scheffler with the other day when he got it. When you're playing for your country, and Victor has made this. Remember what he said like 6 months ago during the Spurs season. He was talking about this and what this would mean to them. They're guaranteed a silver medal. Nobody has an expectation of them beating the United States. They've maxed out what they could have possibly hoped for. They beat Germany. They beat Canada. They're getting the silver medal minimum. That is the greatest achievement in the history of France Olympic basketball.
They're also going to be the first host nation since 1996 when the U.S. medaled in Atlanta to medal in the Olympics as the home nation. So that'll be great as well. I mean, our buddy Mike Fingers over there, he's watching it. He did tweet out a little earlier, I don't think I've ever seen Wembanyama have 2 consecutive games, and really 5, where things have looked sort of hard for him. He's had moments in these Olympics and might have more soon, but FIBA physicality has been a challenge
For sure.
for him.
It's clogged.
It is.
In there.
And it's hard.
And they let him play.
Yeah, which is one of the things I really like about FIBA basketball is that it's more physical. Like, I feel like they've gotten really away from that in the NBA, and it's too, yell at the ref when something doesn't go your way and too much.
Well, you can't touch anybody.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I'm a big fan of the physicality, and Wemby has kind of lacked in that department, even though France is doing a great job.
Which makes an interesting question if you're a Spurs fan. Because we've all been complaining about the NBA style of play in recent years. You hear Charles Barkley, everybody like that complaining about it too. It's just not fun. Is this everybody shoots threes or layups, nothing in between, no mid-range game. And guys just come down, jack up threes. There's no defense being played. Okay, this FIBA is a lot more fun to watch because it's more like football on a basketball court. But if you're a Spurs fan, you might want it to be the other way because of Wemby's slight build and how physical it is. I don't know if he's as good in the NBA if it's played like it is in FIBA.
I want to get to the Spurs here in a second, but let's get to our trivia question first.
Hey, can I just say one thing? Doesn't the French coach deserve to be the MVP for this thing?
For benching Gobert?
I mean, for redoing his lineup like in the middle of the thing and changing his style of play.
And I'm sure it was really hard for him to not play Rudy as much as he was at the beginning of these games because he is the defensive player of the year. He does have all of these great characteristics that come along with being Rudy Gobert. But when it's not working, it's not working. So I think that's a good
Vincent
point.
Collet. Vincent Collet could future. I could see where there's a point in time where Pop adds him to the staff, much like he did Manu's old coach, Ettore Messina, who was Pop's lead assistant for. Pop likes to bring in guys from all over the place. PJ Carlesimo had a stint here. Ettore had a stint here. I wouldn't be surprised if Collet ends up being a Spurs assistant at some point.
Who's the number 7, the guy that's all over the court for France?
Cornier.
No, that's the
Yabusele.
Yeah, something like that. Yabusele.
Yeah.
That kid might make a roster because he's really, really performed
He was great today.
I couldn't remember his name to save the life of me. But he's been great today. Yeah, he was their leading scorer today. So anyway, let's get to the trivia question or trivia answer. Who has the most total rebounds in a season for the San Antonio Spurs?
David Robinson.
You're going to go David Robinson. Give me some
Dennis Rodman.
Give me some of your logic here.
Well, they're the only two in my mind that I can remember that won a rebound title that led the NBA that year in rebounding.
Okay.
And so in my mind, it would have to be one of those two.
Okay. So who's your guess?
Dennis was putting up such ridiculous numbers, like 33 rebounds in a game, that I would say Dennis had more.
Because that was right after his Pistons time when he left, came to the Spurs right before he got traded to
Demolition Man, dyed his hair blonde. That was the first time we saw Dennis's reincarnation of his nutty self.
Bob, you got a guess?
Well, we talked about it earlier. That's the first thing that comes to my mind is Dennis, but then it seems like you'd go deeper than that. Like maybe you wouldn't make it that easy.
Am I being sneaky? So you're going with Dennis too?
Yeah.
Any guesses we got?
No, nobody's got a guess.
All right. 1993-94 season, Mr. Dennis Rodman is the correct answer for this trivia question. I sent myself the list. Do you want to guess who's second? If I told you 70s, guess who's second? A 70s Spur player is second in rebounds in a season.
Larry Keenan.
No.
In the 70s.
In the 70s. I'll give you a year if you need the year.
No. Don't give me the year.
Okay. I need to get the Jeopardy sound on here.
It would be they didn't trade for Artis Gilmore till the 80s.
It's not Artis.
They didn't have,
He's got a really weird name.
Well, I was getting ready to say, it'd have to be early 70s then, right?
Mid-70s. 74, 75.
Swin Nader.
Yep. Never.
What's the
heard.
guy's name?
Swen Nader.
Swen Nader.
Is his first name Swen?
Yeah.
His name is Swen.
Swen.
He was
Not
Swedish.
Sven. Swen.
You know what? He backed up Bill Walton at UCLA.
You know, that's swell. All right, let's get to the Spurs roster.
Swen was a stud, man. I went to the old arena, and this is before those.
Talking about the Hemisphere Arena?
Yeah, this is before those collapsible rims that Daryl Dawkins, shattered glass, and so they came in with the giveaway rim. But I was at a game when I was 10 years old where they had to switch out the backboard because Swen Nader broke a rim with a dunk in a game.
Really?
Yeah.
I was going to look up how many, or what the average was for Dennis Rodman that year, but I do know his raw statistic was he had 1,367 rebounds in an 82-game season
That's
in 93-94.
ridiculous.
He had
19.
304 more than David Robinson's best year, which was 90-91.
Okay.
Which is just ridiculous.
What made him so? How do you? What was his technique to get so many rebounds?
Did you see? You ever see?
He was really.
You ever see Last Dance?
I never watched
The documentary. He has this really great moment in there where he's talking about how he studied the rim and what he did best, and he would just have people throw stuff up at the rim, so he knew, okay, if it bounces here, it's going to go this way. If it bounces here, it's going to go this way. And
He anticipated
would study that stuff, and it was always just his effort too.
He anticipated the geometrics of it all.
Whenever I tell young basketball players or see young basketball players, it's like there's two things you can gauge, and it's effort and effort goes into rebounding and defense.
Yeah.
That's how you make yourself available and good.
He was a great
There's
effort
two
player.
things that you can do on the court and control all the time. Or actually one thing, and it translates into two things.
Dennis Rodman from
I have no idea.
Dallas South Oak Cliff High School.
Okay.
Southeast Oklahoma
Whatever you
State.
say. All right, Spurs roster. So they're not going to get Lauri Markkanen. Sad. 5 years, $232 million, I think he just signed with the Jazz, which means he cannot be traded. And they did it after
Today.
They did it today. So it was after the August 6th kind of deadline where he could have been traded during this NBA season. So he cannot be traded this NBA season. Next time we'll talk about Lauri Markkanen is going to be when the Jazz Jazz beat the Spurs at some point this year, and probably next summer.
He goes off for 35 against the Spurs.
Exactly. Because it's going to happen now that they didn't trade for him. He's going to go off for 40 on 1 week.
It's an interesting situation for Utah because everybody thought they were going to blow it up. Jordan Clarkson's from here. I know Jordan. And I think Jordan was thinking he was going to be pushed and moved somewhere else, that they were going to blow the whole thing up. Now they're going to try to build around Markkanen. That's going to be interesting.
But they've already blown it up once, so I kind of understand why they did this, because what are you trying to do if you're not trying to build around the players that you trade for?
Well, they couldn't get what they were asking. Danny Ainge was asking
they were asking for the
King's
sun,
ransom.
the moon, and the stars.
Yeah.
They were literally asking for everything that you could ever get.
Yeah.
What was the asking price? 5 ones, Pajemski and Moses Moody from the Warriors, plus pick swaps?
They wanted Devin Keldon, the Spurs number ones. They wanted those Atlanta number ones. It was just ridiculous.
They were asking for so much that it wouldn't have made any sense to trade him, because what are you going to have left if you trade for him? It didn't make any sense.
No.
So,
and I think they knew that nobody was going to take that.
Well, yeah.
So they wanted to kind of sign him, and he wanted to be there.
Well, also, if you don't want to trade somebody, you're always going to pick up the phone. But if you don't want to trade somebody, what do? You ask for
the moon.
way, way, way too much. And if they give it to you, then okay, then you trade them.
Yeah.
So now that we kind of know Lauri Markkanen's out of the picture, we know who's on the Spurs roster right now. We don't really anticipate any huge moves. Maybe a Keldon move comes somewhere down the line. This is probably who's going to be on the roster as we go into the Spurs season. How much better is this team right now as they were 3 months ago?
It's hard to say, because the biggest, and I've been saying this on this podcast and other places, there is no way to gauge Wemby's improvement. There's no way to know how much better he's going to be from year 1 to year 2. We don't know what Castle's going to be. We know what he looks like. And then outside of that, we know with the Paul and Harrison Barnes acquisitions that they should be a lot more responsible with the ball, a better 3-point shooting team. And again, I say, if you look at their last month and 7 out of their last 12 games I mean, they won 7 out of their last 12 games. I think if you look at that team without Paul and without Barnes and without Castle, just a team that ended the season, if you were to say next year starts now, the day that season ended, I think we would think they were a 40-win team. So I think their baseline is 40 with Chris, Barnes, Wemby's improvement, Castle. I think they're a team that could win 42, 45 games.
I think that this roster looks a little congested. And by that, I mean there's a lot of guys that play 2 through 4 and not a lot of guys that I think there's too many guys that play those positions. Castle can maybe go 1, 2, maybe 3. Paul's obviously a 1. Trey's obviously a 1. But then you have Blake Wesley, you have Devin, you have Jeremy, you have all of these guys. Keldon, Malachi, like Mamu. You have all these guys at the end of this roster in like the 7 through 12 spots on this roster that are trying to develop and trying to earn playing time, that there's almost too many of those guys.
That'll work itself out. That'll work itself out in camp, and then that'll work itself out if they want to move, like, and I've said this all along with Keldon, equal value at a different position.
Yeah, like it looks like they need a big guy to me.
Yeah, they do.
They need a big guy and they need another 3-point shooting threat.
I agree.
So who do you move in that case? Like, how does all this play out? I don't anticipate seeing that before December. Like,
well, you wait and you see what is Malachi Flynn, right? What is Trey Jones? Does it give you a chance to move Wesley?
Does Branham develop? Does Wesley develop into a better 3-point shooter?
Does Malachi is a really nice player. I like Malachi, but there doesn't seem to be a spot for him.
Yeah. Does Branham or does Vassell develop a 3-point shot that's a little bit more consistent? Like, you have to see how the guys develop. So I get that. So I feel like if we see one of those moves, this is probably the roster we're gonna have.
I still think they need a specialist,
like
sniper.
A 3-point specialist?
Yeah, like the guy that was at Memphis.
Like a Danny Green. You need or a Luke Kennard.
Yeah.
A Danny Green, a Luke Kennard, a Mike Miller, Kyle Korver, any of those guys.
Who was the guy we had? Doug McDermott.
Yeah, but even he.
No, not him now, but it's that type of player.
Yeah. I was gonna say even now, like, he's not at that level. He's a tier below
as
a 3-point shooter.
But what about Malachi Flynn? You just said his name.
I honestly don't know a lot about him.
He scored 50 points last year.
He scored 50 against the Hawks last year.
Yeah, but he played on Detroit. So,
but you look at his full
team?
body of work. He's a former first-round pick, so obviously people thought a lot of him coming out. But then he's bounced around Toronto, Detroit, now the Spurs. I think there was one other. He's averaged about 8 points a game. He's had a hard time sticking. He's little. He's 6'1". But when you go back and look at that tape against the Hawks, man, he's got some Iverson in him.
Between Malachi, Trey Jones, and Bouye and Stephon Castle, who do you think is going to be the one to back up Chris Paul there?
Castle.
But is he? I feel like he's going to play more 2 than 1.
Maybe at first. That dude's the future of the Spurs at the 1. The future. Maybe not this year, but he's the future of the Spurs at 1.
I think the 40 to 45 win total that you threw out there is probably pretty accurate.
Yeah, but I thought that last year too.
Yeah, but it's a new year.
Can you have 2 Malachis on the same team?
They're spelled differently.
Yeah, they are spelled differently.
Okay, we're good then.
Yeah, so we're fine. Let's get to it.
And we got 2 Harrisons.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Both from North Carolina.
Yeah, Barnes and Ingram. Pretty sure we're not going to have 2 Wembanyamas. That would be cool. I mean, maybe in a couple years. Let's get to a Cowboys update. So Emmitt Smith had some interesting things to say to our buddy RJ Ochoa on Blogging with the Boys. RJ did an interview with him. He asked Emmitt about the contract situation that he had back in 1993 when he got a new deal, and he asked how that kind of relates to CD and Dak's deal. So this is what he had to say to RJ.
With CD and the Dallas Cowboys today, let's make this very clear. He is a very, very valuable asset to the Dallas Cowboys. He is a very, very valuable asset to Dak Prescott. Without him on the football field, they're putting all the pressure on Dak Prescott now. And that is unacceptable because every quarterback of his caliber should have quality people to throw the ball to. Not no plan B or no plan C or no plan D guy. He should be in a position as your franchise quarterback. He should be in a position to be successful. And right now, you're putting him behind the 8 ball, and that is not right.
So pretty strong words from Emmitt.
Yeah, he and Troy and Michael have not minced words when it comes to their criticism of the Cowboys.
They really haven't, which is kind of surprising. But I like that they're speaking their
Troy-
mind and they're speaking out.
Yeah, Troy always has.
Well, I think they're just sick of what they're seeing. Like,
Yeah,
that's
it's
just like the
ridiculous.
rest of the Cowboy fans are. Like, you're sick of seeing this team get 12 wins and fail in the playoffs. You're sick of seeing Jerry.
Did you ever think it would last 30 years?
They have not
It's
won.
been 30 years.
They've won 5 playoff games since I've been born.
See, my kids don't understand the Cowboys being a great franchise.
No.
Because they haven't been in their lifetimes.
In my lifetime, they've been the most overhyped franchise in.
They will always be that.
That's what they've been. Like,
Even if they won the Super Bowl, they'd be overhyped.
no, at that point, you just need to come out and do something. You know what I mean? Like the Broncos, for example, are one of those franchises that they've made 8 Super Bowls, but nobody looks at it that way because they haven't won in 9 years. But the Cowboys, on the other hand, haven't won in 30 years. They've won in the regular season, but they haven't done jack
And they're
crap.
the number one most valued franchise in all of sports.
Jerry could sell them for $9 billion.
10.
Yeah, $9 to $10 billion if he really wanted to. Yet he isn't going to fork over the cash to sign Dak and CD and make them the highest paid players on.
You've heard my philosophy on that.
Well, I think they should let Dak go, but that's just me.
Hey, so do you think the Cowboys have built a Super Bowl caliber team in the past 30 years, though? I mean, because, there's a lot of luck that
Once
goes
or
into it, right?
twice.
I think they've had.
Once or twice they had a
definitely
Romo
had
team that had,
potential.
was pretty good.
Wasn't that 09?
Dak had a team that was pretty good. But nah.
Wasn't
not
that
really.
that 18 Cowboys team really good with Dak on his rookie deal when
Maybe.
they had Zeke there, and like this was primed Zeke in 18,
Yeah.
right before
Last
basically-
2 years ago, last couple of years they've had a really
I
good
thought
roster.
last year they had the team. To be honest with you, I thought last year they were coming in. They had everything set up for them. They had
I
everything.
know you guys
that
make
could
fun
ask.
of me, but I don't see them winning 6 or 7 games this year.
What?
6 or 7.
That's it?
Yeah.
6 or 7. Okay, let's play out that scenario. 6 or 7 games. How long into the season does Mike McCarthy get?
Not long. Like if they start off like 1-4,
The sky's falling if that happens.
it's
They're not going to fire him
It's
after 4
possible.
games.
You look at their schedule, it's possible.
Look at
6 or
their
7
look at their
games would be
lineup,
a
it's
hell of a turnaround from 12 games last 3 years.
They don't have anybody on their roster.
So, but if that happens, then and these deals don't get done, do you think it's a complete reset after
Yeah.
this season?
Yes.
McCarthy gone, Prescott gone, Zimmer gone, CD probably stays, Micah probably stays, but everybody else, everything
Dak
that's
gone.
not nailed down, gone.
Quite possibly.
Why don't they do that? Like, why is it?
They
I know
will
you
if they
want to
lose.
stay relevant, but like the writing's been on the wall for this team all off season. Why haven't they tried to strip it down and be like, all right, you know what? This is going to be an active rebuild.
Dude, you want to see a good team? We're covering them both right now. But you look at the
Texans.
hosses that the Texans have compared to the Cowboys.
They're so good. They're going to be really good this year.
Hoss after hoss after hoss.
Yeah. If CJ Stroud shows any improvement, any like incremental improvement, and the offensive line can protect him, they're going to be really freaking good this year. And their defense needs to get a little bit better, which D'Amico will have them.
I'll say this
doing that.
right now. I don't feel confident that the Cowboys will win as few as 7 games. That's kind of something that Cyber can tease this podcast with on the internet, get clicks. Don Harris says Cowboys to only win 6 games.
6 or 7 games is kind of wild.
But I will say this fully confidently: the Texans will win more regular season games than the Cowboys this year.
I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's going to be factual.
Okay.
Their division's a lot easier than
Well,
the
good,
Cowboys.
because
is.
I don't give hot takes.
Well, I don't know. You've had a couple of
Except
spicy,
when
take.
Bod
you've had a
makes
couple
them.
of spicy ones today. I think that Emmitt knows exactly what he's doing. Same with Troy. I think Troy knows exactly what he's doing. Michael knows exactly what he's doing. Like all of these former Cowboys that come out and criticize the franchise, they know what they're doing when they criticize Jerry and when they criticize Dak and all that stuff. They're all on the player's side.
Emmitt Smith from?
Didn't you go to Miami? No, sorry. You go to Florida? Florida, sorry. My bad.
Escambia High School, Pensacola,
I
Florida.
don't care what. I knew he went to Florida. All right. I get him and not him, but I get the schools mixed up when it's Miami and Florida down there.
Okay.
Ga-
In Florida State.
In Gatorville, yeah. Like I know Frank Gore went down to one of them, Miami, but I always get that confused with. Anyway, you're much better with the schools than I am.
Up until a point.
So should I just start naming? Should
Just
that be
ask me what I had for breakfast today. I have no idea.
Should that be our game now? Is I just
Prevagen.
name random players and you can just tell me what school they went to?
Yeah. Name any NBA player from like the 90s. Anybody, go.
You put me on the spot. Isaiah Thomas.
Indiana.
You're going to tell me high schools or you're going to tell me?
He went to, he's from Chicago, and he went to that private school that escapes me
Joe
right now.
Dumars.
McNeese State,
Steve Kerr.
Arizona.
Yeah, that one's easy.
Pacific Palisades High School.
Going back a little farther, do you remember Bingo Smith from the Cavaliers?
I do remember Bingo Smith, but I don't know where he went to college.
I don't know either.
Boobie Gibson.
Texas.
See, that was the one I was going to try and stump you on. All right, that's all I got. On the way out, real quick, before we get to anything, happy birthday to my grandmother.
All right.
She is I'm not going to say her age because she'll get mad at me.
29.
But if you look at on screen, she doesn't look a day over 60. So she is phenomenal. She's probably at the gym right now, actually. She goes to the gym 2 hours a day.
So she's older than 60.
She's older than 60. Well, my mother's almost 60, so yeah, she's older than 60.
Wow.
She doesn't look a day over 60. She is in phenomenal shape. She has aches and pains, as any older person does. But she is phenomenal. She's beautiful. Happy birthday, Mimi.
Happy birthday, Mimi.
I think she's at breakfast right now with my sister. So hopefully they'll listen a little bit later. But anyway, love you, Mimi. I'll call you a little bit later. That's all we got for you on the Sneakers Cleats.
Shout out Tom Guerrero.
That's all we got for you on the Sneakers Cleats podcast. Remember, download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. We'll be back on Monday with more. See you then.